This channel was created to share some of the things that I enjoy here in Southeast South Dakota. Gardening, homesteading, my family, firewood production, model railroading, and most certainly the progress towards completion here on my HO scale Black Hills and Eastern Railroad. My name is Eric and I've got a monster of an update for you coming up. This episode of Black Hills and Eastern Railroad starts now. The first item that I've got to update you on is LED strip lights. I've got these installed in some of the bench work here that's been completed. I got started on this early summer 2025 and I did run an episode specifically on these LED strip lights, so I'll link to that in the description below if you want to take a look. After that episode concluded, I continued to run lights around the corner here and underneath where a Corson will be, pardon the mess here, and all the way around the corner here. So we've got plenty of light in the staging areas here. Basically everything that's lit with this LED strip light is staging areas. And then we'll continue the LED strip light underneath the Sioux Falls area here. And I do recognize that this is low clearance bench work here. That is a design consideration to keep the grades down between staging and the main level here. Item number 2, I got a bunch of sheet material cut. I've got 1/4 inch plywood and I've got 1/2 inch homasote cut and some test fitted in here. The benefit to homasote is that it takes a track nail very well and it is pretty quiet. The drawback I think is probably when you cut it, it's really messy, and you can see on the corner here it's fraying a little bit. It also does not do well in water, so we have to watch the water and the product that we apply on scenery and things like that when we get to that scenery step. The third item is we got started with fascia. This is 1/8 inch masonite hardboard I put along Sioux City here. We'll continue that all around the layout here and on the mid and upper levels, depending on what the situation calls for. Of course, we'll vary the width. I've got some more cut down here on the floor, and that's probably going to do me for the lower level, but then we'll have to cut narrower obviously for the mid, and we'll cut differently also for the high line, which will call for probably some varied contours around valleys and hills and all that type of thing. Should be interesting. I'm planning to paint the fascia like a satin black. Item number 4, switches in the Sioux City yard. You can see that I've got some pretty tight clearances here, and I really do not want to be reaching in there to throw ground throws or flick switches or anything like that. So I've got tortoise machines mounted under here. I mounted 10 tortoise machines in the Sioux City yard. And while I was here in the Sioux City yard, I ended up running power to all of the turnouts in the Sioux City yard. I didn't count, but there was quite a few. And what I ended up having to do here, these Atlas turnouts are pot metal. The ones that are metal are a pot metal, kind of sintered metal like Athearn wheels are, blue box wheels. So what you have to do is put a really small screw in one of those ears that's provided by Atlas, and then you can solder to the top of that screw, that brass screw. It's virtually impossible to get a solder joint to take on this sintered metal here, this pot metal turnout. So we should have good connectivity if we end up needing it. It's here, especially in these parts that are pretty tight underneath the Sioux Falls bench work here. I don't have to worry about that. I've got that green drop if I decided I need to use it later. I'm planning on making 2 new panels to control the 10 switches in the Sioux City yard that I just put in as well. And they'll be just like this, and probably, since they're mostly mainline switches or AD track type switches, I'll probably put those indicator lights on like I did here on this nearer Sioux City panel. Got a bunch more bench work done here, as you can see. So that monitor is on top of what will be basically downtown Sioux Falls, and then the industrial park behind that garbage receptacle there. And continuing along in the industrial park on the north side of Sioux Falls, here up over the Sioux City yard on this main level. You see on the top here that Black Hill subdivision going up towards Edgemont. Pay no attention to that. That'll stay there, and we'll hide that, or we'll obfuscate that later. And then continuing on further north in Sioux Falls here, until we end up joining back in and heading up towards Del Rapids over here off to the side, out and around the helix, and then down to staging. As I mentioned before, this is open grid benchwork style. I'm doing this out of 1x2 construction, and I've shown before, but I'll mention again that each one of these joints I've pilot hole drilled and countersank in one step, and then white glued on every joint here. This is pretty good solid bench work. I wouldn't get up and dance on it, but it is solid enough for definitely HO trains and scenery. So that leaves me with my bench work basically 100% complete here on the mid-level. And then kind of the last item here is the DCC bus wire that I just got done pulling. This is 12 gauge wire that I pulled here. I plan to connect to this with suitcase connectors off of the track, off of feeders, and I've got that stubbed out over in the DCC area on the layout here. I haven't got that bus wire hooked up yet. There's really no reason to yet, but I've got it stubbed out over here. We'll be plugging that into the PM42, Digitrax PM42, for basically circuit breaking and dividing the Digitrax DCC system out into 4 power districts. So next steps here, before I put down sheet material on top of this bench work, I need to get LED strip lighting put in underneath the bench work here, underneath that bus wire. And then of course, as I said, we'll put that sheet material down, and that's got to get painted. I've got a gallon bucket of, I think it's just latex paint, burnt umber or whatever-ish. Basically the same color that we put underneath the SIoux City yard here that's in the foreground, just to knock down the shine of that lighter homasote material that's underneath the track. Speaking of track, we will be using Atlas Code 83 here on the main lines and the industrial spurs. The industrial spurs will probably wait. I'll put in the switches for the sidings and the passing sidings and all that type of thing, but we'll probably wait to finalize the spurs until later, until we get the bench work done up above here. And then speaking of bench work, we'll have to do bench work on the upper level here, coming off the helix, downtown Deadwood here in the foreground, about 60 inches or so along the outside wall here, and then I'll show you on the other side of the room where it comes out. This top line here in the foreground here is that line that we're calling the Black Hills sub, that goes from the southern SIoux City yard up to Edgemont, South Dakota. And speaking of Edgemont, South Dakota, that'll come through the wall here just like the Marshall subdivision does on the lower level. Up top here, about 60 inches or so, we'll poke through the wall for the Black Hills sub and come out here at Edgemont, South Dakota, right here in the foreground. Above these 187th models here that I picked up at my local Menards for a decent price, I plan to put these on flat cars. They're a little bit modern for what my purposes are, but you know what, they're available, and the price was right on these, so I picked these up, and we'll get these mounted up on flat cars. And as we get ready to pull the pin on this particular episode, I'd like you to sound off in the comment section down below. Do you have any comments or questions about the progress here on this HO scale model railroad? And for now, we'll bid you goodbye and see you in the next one.